Alright, so take 2 on the HSK Pro Ace mouse review. I feel like I have refined my review a little bit since the last time I tried. Alright, so in this review, I am going to be talking about who this mouse might be for, what my experience with this mouse has been like, things to think about before purchasing it, tech specs, build quality, and what this mouse does differently compared to normal sized mice. Now, I haven't actually done one of these before, so please excuse me if I leave anything out. I am a mouse review virgin. Feedback greatly appreciated. I'm also going to have some clips from Apex in the background of me using the HSK Pro, just so my face isn't full screen the entire time. So the mouse of today is the HSK Pro Ace/4K. I will be reviewing the Ace version, which is only 1K hertz, but everything else about the mouse is the same, and this is quite an obscure mouse that I am sure is not for everyone, which is why I'm reviewing it. First of all, I'm going to be talking about why you might want to try this mouse. It is a very, very small mouse that is going to offer a large range of motion in your fingers along with your wrist and arm. Personally, I find that trying to use a fingertip grip on a normal sized mouse can be quite difficult, as it fills your hand out much more. So when doing things like vertical tracking or moving around in a circle with your fingers, it can feel quite restricting since the hump is going to be smushed up against your hand almost immediately, which leads to my second point. For normal sized mice, you can move further back on the mouse, but this is usually where most mice flare out and become wider. An example here is right here. My HTS Plus flares out at the bottom. This is where I would naturally want to grip it, but it can become quite uncomfortable after a long session and feel quite restricting. And for me personally, it creates a lot of unnecessary tension and gives me cramps if I play long enough. I should probably mention that my dinky fanboy hands are 18.5 centimeters by 8.5 centimeters, so spreading out at the back is even less comfortable. But with the HSK Pro, I straight up don't have this problem. I can pretty much just put my hand on top of the mouse, completely relaxed, and it just sort of fits instead of having to accommodate for it. So for all the fingertip grip homies out there, if you feel like you're being limited in range of motion by the regular sized mice, then something smaller like this might be right up your alley. Okay, so next we're going to cover the tech specs, because I feel like I want to put this earlier into the video rather than later, because I'm sure there are some people that really want to know the tech specs before they want to listen to the rest of the rambling. But I do want to say that most half-decent gaming mice nowadays will have specs that are more than enough to compete even at the highest level realistically. Like, some people out there still use the Logitech G502. I know, I couldn't believe it either. Also, side note before I go through these, for 3 days in a row I've been checking the G-Wolves website and I just cannot connect to it. L from G-Wolves, please get a more stable website hosting service or something so I can look at your mice, please. So I'm gonna have to come back to that. The website is up, finally. I also feel like they raised the price on this. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like I feel like it was cheaper than this. But if we scroll down, we have the specs here. We've got a 3395 sensor. We've got the zippy switches, which I personally like. We've got around 26 grams. 2600 DPI, 1000 hertz polling rate. You can pick 1mm or 2mm lift-off distance. The cable's actually really nice. I really like these cables. Got the actual dimensions right there, and nothing else is important. Yeah. So that's the tech specs. Alright, so now that's out of the way, we know that the HSK Pro is great in some ways, but there are some downsides to using such a tiny mouse. Something that applies to all fingertip only mice will be losing out on stability. Like when I'm having a bad day, I feel like it shows a lot more than if I was using a normal sized mouse. I feel like you could compare it to mouse pads somewhat, where cloth is usually safer, whereas a speed surface is going to highlight more of your flaws. The lack of hump makes it more difficult to perform smooth movements. However, this is definitely something you are able to train and get used to. If your hands are on the larger side, you may experience a similar situation to me, but on the opposite end, where you have to conform to the small size of the mouse too much and end up straining yourself over time. Something you could try is putting your hand down on a mouse pad in a relaxed fashion, not flat, but sort of how you would want to naturally put your hand on a mouse, and measure between the inside of your pinky to the inside of your thumb and compare it to the width of the mouse. I don't think this experiment is going to translate well to picking a palm grip mouse, but it might indicate whether or not you're going to have to overcompensate when trying to fingertip grip. Now for weight balancing, the HSK Pro is definitely weighted more towards the front of the mouse. Like if I do this, it sort of goes to the front. I mean, I'm pretty much holding the middle, and it's not really moving, but it is weighted more on the front. However, when I'm actually using it in game or not in game, it's not something I ever notice or feel like it holds me back in any way. I haven't really had a mouse with absurdly bad weight balancing that it made me feel like it was having an actual negative impact on my gameplay, or even really could notice it at all. And I also feel like because it's so small and light anyway, it's not going to be a problem for 99% of people that are going to try it. Now, build quality. I've had this mouse for over a year, but only really mained it for the last 3 months. When I first got it, I didn't really commit to using it and thought it was a bad purchase and regretted it. But there was also a sensor issue at the time where it would cut out quite often. I tried to return it, but G-Wolves told me they had rolled out a firmware update which did indeed fix this problem. I was salty because I still wanted my money back, but lately I was getting tired of feeling uncomfortable with my HTS Plus and decided to give it another go. The mouse is actually really solid, no creaking whatsoever. The clicks feel really nice in my opinion. I will do a click sound test thing. Yes, good comparison. Mouse with clicks that I don't like, the ENDGAME Gear OP1 Wii, and the stock clicks on that thing made me so disappointed. I hated them. You had to click at the very front of the mouse up here, or it was incredibly stiff. I did replace them with the mod provided by ENDGAME Gear, and still, honestly, in my opinion, they are not great. I think it's because they are opticals, and opticals just don't feel as nice as mechanical switches, at least in my opinion. They are much more heavy and stiff, which the HSK Pro is not. The side buttons are also very nice. Good feedback, not stiff, and in my opinion are positioned in a very good spot. It can be a bit weird using side buttons on a mouse this small, but with the position it's easy to just roll your thumb upwards a little bit to activate. So big W in my opinion. The shell doesn't creak or flex. I'm not going to do a ballsy and squeeze it as hard as humanly possible, but I have squeezed it harder than I ever would do in an actual game, and there's no sign of any QC issues. And moving on to the scroll wheel, at first I thought I was going to hate this thing. On the HTS Plus, the scroll wheel is super light and soft, and to be honest, I loved it for ages, whereas the HSK Pro has more defined steps and is a bit heavier. And in my head, I thought for a normal user that doesn't really try and wall bounce tap strafe around every corner in Apex Legends, this would be a really nice mouse wheel. But even after maining it for a bit, I think I just don't like change, because I find it works just fine doing movement in Apex after I got used to it, and overall feels higher quality than my HTS Plus. Now I got to move on to battery life. On both of my G-Wolves products, the battery life is pretty bad. Better than that of the 4K Hertz polling rate mice, but it's still pretty bad. The red warning light also for the low battery is located on the bottom of the mouse, which is insanely stupid. At least on the HSK Pro, you'll be able to see it because of the holes on the mouse, and it's very small, so you will see the red light on it. But on my HTS Plus, it feels like Russian roulette every time I play with that mouse because I never know when it's going to die. So yeah, I don't know why they do that. There must be some reason behind it, but I'm not behind it. So in conclusion, if you want to try a pure fingertip mouse, this is a pretty damn good option. Good build quality, it's not insanely priced like some other fingertip mice on the market right now, and even though I don't think this mouse is perfect for me, it's really fun to use, and I will continue to main it until I'm ready to buy a Beast X Mini and cry about how much it costs. Oh, and don't just watch my review. Check out other reviewers as well. It's important to get multiple opinions on this stuff because it's very unlikely that you perfectly align with any one reviewer. And also there's going to be things that I've left out that I haven't thought of, and things that other reviewers that have left out or answer that I haven't thought of or they haven't thought of. So it is important to watch multiple reviews and make your decision that way. Anyway, I hope this informed you well, and if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Any thoughts, criticism, or questions are most welcome in the comment section. And yeah, have a nice day, everyone. Peace.